Men are often perceived as logical, problem-solving beings, but beneath that exterior, they are deeply driven by emotion. Specifically, the emotions tied to purpose, connection, and significance. While they may not always express emotions in the same way women do, their actions, decisions, and commitments are fueled by how they feel. If a man feels truly connected to someone or something, he will go to extraordinary lengths to protect, provide, and pursue. This is why history is filled with men who have risked everything, not for logic, not for strategy, but for love, for purpose, for something that stirred their soul. So, what creates that level of emotional connection? It's not just physical attraction, shared interests, or even time spent together. It's something deeper. It's the ability to make a man feel seen, understood, and valued in a way he doesn't experience anywhere else. This is the emotional foundation upon which trust, devotion, and unwavering commitment are built. And when a man experiences that depth of connection, he will willingly step into discomfort, take on challenges, and risk everything for the person or cause that gives him that feeling. Many people make the mistake of assuming that men will commit based on obligation, expectations, or convenience. But men don't fully commit because they are supposed to. They commit because they feel compelled to, because something inside them is awakened, challenged, and inspired. If a man sees a vision of himself as stronger, more capable, and more fulfilled in someone's presence, he will go all in. If he feels like he is becoming less of himself, restricted or criticized, he will pull away, even if he can't logically explain why. One of the biggest factors in building this emotional connection is believing in his potential more than he does. Every man has a vision of who he wants to be: the warrior, the protector, the provider, the leader. But life often beats men down, filling them with doubts, insecurities, and fears they don't always express. Society expects men to be strong at all times, which can make them feel isolated in their struggles. A man may appear confident on the outside, but inside he is constantly questioning whether he is enough, whether he has what it takes. If you become the person who sees his strength even when he doesn't, who reminds him of his purpose when he feels lost, you will occupy a place in his heart that no one else can. This doesn't mean simply offering empty praise or flattery. It means recognizing his deeper desires and reinforcing his ability to achieve them. If a man wants to build something great but feels overwhelmed, remind him of his resilience. If he wants to lead but fears failure, remind him of his past victories. If he wants to protect but feels inadequate, let him know you trust him. Men do not respond to criticism the way many think they do. While some believe tough love or constant correction will push a man to do better, it often has the opposite effect. It makes him feel like he's already failing, so why try harder? True influence comes from making him feel powerful, not powerless. Another critical element in emotional connection is being present with him in a way that few people are. Men spend much of their lives feeling like they must perform, whether at work, in relationships, or in social situations. They are expected to be strong, to provide, to fix things, to always be composed. But when a man is with someone who allows him to simply be, who listens without judgment, who understands his silence as much as his words, that experience becomes priceless. The most powerful connections are formed not just in grand gestures, but in the quiet moments of real understanding. This is why, when a man falls deeply in love, he isn't just drawn to someone because they are attractive or kind. He is drawn to the feeling he has when he is around them. If he feels like he is more of himself, more capable, more alive, more inspired, he will fight to keep that connection. If he feels small, criticized, or like he can never measure up, he will slowly withdraw, no matter how much love is present. Understanding a man's emotional world means recognizing that while he may not always verbalize his struggles, he deeply appreciates when someone notices them. He may not ask for support outright, but he craves it in a way that words cannot always express. The key is to provide that support in a way that aligns with his nature. Instead of saying, you should do better, say, I know you're capable of handling this. Instead of pointing out his failures, highlight his past successes and strengths. This level of connection also extends to the way a man is challenged. Many assume men don't like being challenged, but that's not true. Men love being challenged, but only by someone who believes in them. If a man is challenged by someone who doubts him, he will feel defensive. But if he is challenged by someone who sees his greatness, he will rise to the occasion. This is the difference between inspiring a man to be his best versus making him feel like he is never enough. Ultimately, men will risk everything when they feel emotionally connected in a way that fuels their deepest needs: to be seen, to be respected, and to be believed in. If you become the person who creates that space for him, who reinforces his purpose, and who makes him feel like the strongest version of himself, there is no limit to what he will do. He will protect, he will fight, he will take risks, and he will devote himself fully, not because he has to, but because it will feel impossible not to. Men are wired for purpose. At their core, they seek to contribute, protect, and achieve something meaningful. But beneath all of that, there is a deeper need, a need to be respected and admired. This is not about ego. It is about the fundamental way a man experiences love and connection. A man can receive all the affection in the world, but if he does not feel respected, he will feel disconnected. On the other hand, if he feels deeply respected and admired, he will commit himself fully, his time, his energy, his resources, and even his very life to the person who gives him that feeling. Respect is not just about politeness or words of appreciation. It is about seeing the essence of who he is and valuing it. Every man has a deep desire to be recognized for his efforts, to feel that his presence makes a difference, and to know that his contributions are meaningful. When a man feels like he is winning in the eyes of someone he cares about, he will push himself further, take more risks, and invest more deeply. But when he feels like he is losing, when he feels unappreciated, criticized, or inadequate, he begins to withdraw. He may not always express it verbally, but his actions will show it. Less energy, less effort, less commitment. The most powerful relationships are built not on obligation, but on mutual respect and admiration. Many believe that a man's love is proven by what he does, but the truth is, a man's love is activated by how he feels in the presence of someone. If he feels like a hero, like a leader, like a protector, he will show up in ways even he didn't know he was capable of. But if he feels dismissed, diminished, or like he is never enough, he will check out emotionally, even if he stays physically present. A critical mistake many people make is assuming that men respond to love the same way women do. While love is essential, it is not enough for a man to feel fully committed. A man can love someone deeply, but if he does not feel respected in that relationship, that love will turn into frustration, resentment, and eventually distance. When a man senses that his partner truly believes in him, that belief fuels his actions. He begins to think bigger, work harder, and take greater responsibility, not because he's being told to, but because he wants to. Respect is shown in many ways, but one of the most important is through words and tone. The way something is said often matters more than what is being said. If a man feels like he is constantly being criticized, questioned, or spoken to in a way that makes him feel small, he will either become defensive or shut down completely. But when he feels like his efforts are acknowledged, even when he falls short, he will strive to do better. This is not about ignoring problems or avoiding conflict. It is about communicating in a way that makes him feel empowered rather than diminished. Admiration, on the other hand, is what keeps a man deeply connected. It is not just about respect for what he does, but appreciation for who he is. A man thrives when he feels like he is seen and valued beyond his achievements. If he is only admired when he succeeds, but ignored or criticized when he struggles, he will start to believe that his worth is conditional. But if he knows that his partner sees his effort, his character, and his heart, even when he is facing challenges, he will feel an unshakable bond. This is why men are naturally drawn to people who uplift and inspire them. A woman who expresses admiration in a way that feels genuine will have an undeniable influence. That admiration doesn't have to be grand. It can be as simple as recognizing his hard work, his integrity, or the small ways he shows up every day. When a man feels valued, he will instinctively want to give more. He will take on greater challenges, push himself beyond his limits, and commit to something far beyond what logic alone would dictate. Another key to respect and admiration is trusting his ability to handle things. Men are problem solvers by nature. When they are faced with a challenge, they want to figure it out, fix it, and provide a solution. Nothing drains a man's spirit more than feeling like he is constantly doubted or second-guessed. When a man feels trusted, when he knows that his decisions and leadership are valued, he will rise to the occasion. That trust doesn't mean blind acceptance, but it does mean allowing him the space to step into his strength without always feeling like he has to prove himself. One of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is trying to motivate a man through pressure or demands. While this might create short-term compliance, it never creates long-term devotion. True influence comes from inspiration, not pressure. When a man feels genuinely inspired, when he feels like someone believes in him and sees the best in him, he will naturally want to do more. He will take initiative, put in effort, and go beyond expectations, not because he is being forced to, but because he wants to win for the person who sees him as a winner. Ultimately, respect and admiration are not about inflating a man's ego. They are about fueling his purpose. A man who feels truly respected will walk taller, think bigger, and act with more confidence. He will be more giving, more protective, and more willing to sacrifice, not because he is being asked to, but because he feels deeply compelled to. And when a man reaches that level of commitment, there is nothing he won't do to keep the connection strong. Men may not always verbalize their need for respect and admiration, but it is the core foundation of their deepest bonds. If he feels it, he will move mountains. If he doesn't, he will drift away, no matter how much love is present. The key is to recognize that the way a man is spoken to, the way his efforts are acknowledged, and the way he is seen in his lowest moments all determine how deeply he commits. When he finds a connection that makes him feel stronger, more capable, and more valued, he will risk everything to protect it. Influence is not about control, it's about inspiration. The most powerful people in history, the ones who have shaped nations, transformed lives, and built legacies, didn't force people to follow them. They inspired loyalty, devotion, and action because of the way they made others feel. And when it comes to relationships, this principle is even more powerful. A man cannot be forced to commit, to give his all, or to stay devoted. But when he is inspired, when he feels emotionally moved on a deep level, he will do things he never imagined. He will take risks, make sacrifices, and dedicate himself fully, not because he has to, but because he wants to. This is the essence of true influence, not pushing, not demanding, but igniting a fire within him that makes him choose to rise. Many people misunderstand influence. They think it's about persuasion, about convincing someone to behave a certain way, but that kind of influence is temporary. It fades the moment pressure is removed. Real influence is internal. It happens when someone's emotions and thoughts are so deeply impacted that their behavior naturally follows. Men by nature are wired to lead, protect, and achieve. They thrive when they feel like they have a mission, when they know their efforts are appreciated, and when they see themselves as capable. The mistake many people make is thinking they need to push a man to step up. But a man will not step up because he is pushed. He will step up because he feels called to something greater. The key to influencing a man's heart and mind is understanding that men respond powerfully to how they feel in the presence of someone. If he feels empowered, supported, and challenged in a way that brings out his best, he will be drawn in. But if he feels criticized, doubted, or like he can never get it right, he will pull away. A man will go all in for someone who makes him feel like the strongest, most capable version of himself. One of the most powerful ways to create this influence is through feminine energy. This is not about being weak or passive. Feminine energy is one of the strongest forces on the planet. It has the ability to move men to action, to soften the hardest hearts, and to create lasting impact without ever needing to force anything. It is the energy of receptivity, warmth, and deep emotional connection. When a man feels this energy, he does not feel controlled. He feels inspired. He feels safe enough to open up, strong enough to take action, and driven to prove himself, not because he is asked to, but because he wants to. This is why men have gone to war for love, why they have built empires for the ones who believed in them, and why they have risked everything for something that made them feel truly alive. This energy does not come from demanding more. It comes from creating an environment where a man naturally wants to give more. When he feels truly seen, when he feels like his presence matters, and when he feels like his efforts are acknowledged, he will go above and beyond. He will commit himself not out of obligation, but out of desire. A powerful way to activate this influence is through encouragement and belief. Most men are harder on themselves than they let on. They carry fears of failure, of not being enough, of not being able to provide or succeed. Society tells them they must be strong at all times, but inside, they battle self-doubt just like anyone else. When a man is with someone who sees his potential even when he doesn't, he will start to believe in himself more. And when he believes in himself more, he will act with more confidence, more strength, and more dedication. This does not mean ignoring a man's flaws or pretending everything is perfect. True influence comes from seeing his struggles and still believing in his ability to overcome them. When a man senses that someone trusts in his ability to grow, he will push himself to become better. But when he feels like he is constantly doubted, questioned, or criticized, he will feel demotivated. A simple but powerful way to create this influence is by focusing on his strengths rather than his weaknesses. Every man has areas where he excels and areas where he struggles. When he is reminded of his strengths, when his efforts are appreciated, and when his value is acknowledged, he will naturally want to step into a higher version of himself. Many people make the mistake of thinking that influence comes from fixing a man or changing him. But true influence does not come from changing someone, it comes from inspiring them. When a man feels that someone believes in him, when he feels like he is seen as strong and capable, he will want to rise to that vision. This is why the most powerful relationships are not based on control or pressure, but on inspiration. A man will fight for, protect, and commit to the person who makes him feel like the greatest version of himself. He will do things not because he is forced to, but because he wants to live up to the vision that has been placed in front of him. When influence is approached in this way, it creates a bond that is unshakable. It is no longer about external expectations or obligations. It is about an internal drive that makes a man want to give his best. Men will risk everything for something that calls them to greatness. If he feels that presence in his life, if he feels deeply seen, trusted, and believed in, he will move mountains to keep that connection strong. This is not manipulation. This is the power of true inspiration. A man will go to extraordinary lengths when he feels emotionally safe. He will risk, commit, protect, and provide, not because he is forced to, but because he feels deeply connected on a level that makes him want to give his all. Emotional safety is the foundation of trust, devotion, and deep love. Without it, even the strongest attraction fades. With it, A man will willingly face challenges, make sacrifices, and go beyond what he ever thought possible. Many people misunderstand what emotional safety means for men. It is not just about kindness or avoiding conflict. It is about creating an environment where a man feels like he can be himself completely, without fear of judgment, rejection, or failure. Men may seem strong on the outside, but inside they carry deep fears. Fears of not being enough, of failing, of letting people down. The world tells men they must always be tough, that they cannot show weakness, that they must have all the answers. But even the strongest men need a space where they can put their guard down and feel accepted exactly as they are. A man may not always express his emotions verbally, but he feels deeply. He notices the way he is spoken to, the way he is treated when he is struggling, and whether he is appreciated for more than just what he provides. If he feels like he is constantly being measured, criticized, or doubted, he will start to emotionally withdraw. But if he feels like he is valued, trusted, and seen for who he truly is, he will open up in ways that deepen his connection beyond words. One of the most powerful ways to create emotional safety is through consistent support, not just when things are good, but when things are difficult. Many people admire a man when he is winning, when he is successful, when he is confident. But what about when he is struggling? What about when he fails? A man will notice if the support he receives is conditional. If he feels like he is only loved when he is achieving, he will feel pressure instead of peace. But if he knows that someone will stand by him even in his lowest moments, that bond becomes unbreakable. Men do not open up easily. Many have been conditioned to believe that expressing emotions is weakness, so they learn to hold things in. But when a man finds someone who makes him feel safe enough to be vulnerable, he will share parts of himself that no one else sees. He will open his heart, his thoughts, his fears, and his dreams, not because he is asked to, but because he trusts that he will not be judged. This is why listening without judgment is one of the most powerful ways to build emotional safety. When a man shares something, whether it is his struggles, his frustrations, or his dreams, the way it is received determines whether he will continue to open up or start shutting down. If he is met with criticism, interruption, or a dismissive response, he will learn to keep things to himself. But if he is met with understanding, patience, and encouragement, he will feel safe enough to be fully himself. Many relationships fall apart not because love is lacking, but because emotional safety is missing. A man might stay physically present, but if he feels like he cannot fully express himself without conflict, correction, or criticism, he will begin to detach. On the other hand, when a man feels like he can express himself freely, when he feels accepted, even in his imperfections, he will feel deeply connected in a way that goes beyond attraction. Another critical part of emotional safety is respecting his need for space. Men process emotions differently than women. When a man is facing stress, doubt, or frustration, his instinct is often to retreat, to solve the problem internally before talking about it. This is not a rejection, it is simply how he processes. If he is constantly pressured to talk before he is ready, he will feel overwhelmed. But if he is given the space to think, reflect, and come back when he is ready, he will trust even more. Emotional safety also means trusting his intentions. Men are deeply affected by how they are perceived. If a man feels like he is always being doubted, like his words and actions are constantly questioned, he will start to shut down. But when he feels like he is trusted, when he knows that his efforts are seen and appreciated, he will naturally want to give more. A man's deepest loyalty is not won through force, guilt, or obligation. It is won through how he feels in someone's presence. If he feels at peace, if he feels understood, if he feels like he can be his true self without fear, he will never want to leave. He will protect, commit, and give his all, not because he has to, but because it will feel impossible not to. Ultimately, men don't risk everything for beauty, attraction, or even love alone. They risk everything for a feeling, a deep sense of connection, trust, and emotional security. When a man finds a place where he feels completely safe to be himself, where he is respected, trusted, and supported through both his victories and his struggles, he will go to war to protect it. And that kind of bond is the strongest foundation for a lifelong connection.